Hello and welcome to video 5. In the last video, I worked on adding customizations to the Django admin. I added this column right here and also this column right here. And also I added this poll results right here. And in this video, I'm going to start off with making a model change, and then I'm going to add arguments to the management command. I'm going to add this -- verbose and a -- test option to the 22 tick management command. So to get started, I'm going to add I'm going to do a migration. So this poll result model. We have these two text fields at the bottom here, and I don't really like how this is set up. The way it is now, it works, but there's a better way to do it. And because this project is still very young, it's okay to make lots of model changes. Like when the project is older and more mature, it becomes harder to make model changes. But since it's young, now's the time to make these kinds of changes. So what I don't really like is like this right here, this code. This line right here is practically the same line as this one right here, and it has to be duplicated. And the reason for that is because if the poll result was successful, the result is called result.success. But down here, if it was an error, it's called result.error. And so because it's a different field, we have to have these two different lines here. And that's kind of like duplicating code, and that's a sign that something's wrong. So I'm going to slightly redesign this poll result model. I'm going to turn this success field into a Boolean field. And then we're going to rename this to just result. So if the poll is an error, then this success will just be false, and the result will be the error message. And if it happens successfully, then the success will be true, and then the result will just be the result. And so I'm kind of reusing this field for both a successful result and an error result. And I'm using this field, this success field, to tell me what the actual result was. I think that makes the code a lot simpler. So first off, we're gonna just call this result to match this result, and then we're gonna dump it through JSON if the result was success, else result. And then success is now going to be a Boolean, and we'll just say success equals success, and the success will be by default will be true, and if it failed, we'll set success as false, and then this will be result. And we can also get rid of this. So if it's a success, it'll be set to true, and then this line will get executed, and if there's no error, then this part gets skipped, and it'll just go straight down here, and this will be set to true, and so we will dump the result, which will have been set from here, and then success will also be true. But in the case of a failure, then this line will raise an exception, and it'll jump down to here, and then result will just be the actual error message, and then success, which I spelled wrong, will be set to false. And then when we get down here, this will be false, and so we just put in the result and we skip the JSON part, and then this part here will be this part here will be set to false. And then also I need to update this admin part. So right here, this part is going to be valid for both if it's a success or if it's a failure. So we can put this above here. We'll just call this line. And this will be a result. And if it's not a success, so if it's an error, then we want to wrap it in this red color. So for each poll result, whether it's a success or a failure, we generate this line, which contains the seconds to poll, the result, which can either be an error message or a successful result, and then the graph name. And then this is in bold. This part's in bold. And then down here, if it's not a success, because this is now a Boolean, the Boolean field, we just take the line and we just wrap it in this span tag so that it's red. And then at the end of the loop, we append the line that we just created and we add that to the lines list, and then we return the lines joined together with the line break. And so that's that. Everything else, I think that's all that needs to be changed. And so now the next thing to do is to make the fixture, or to make the migration. But before I make the migration, I need to make what's called a fixture. So like I said, this project is not live yet, so that there's no production data. And because of that, we don't need to do a migration. So I just prefer to just delete the database and just recreate it from scratch each time. But when I do that, there's one bit of data in the database that I want to keep, and that is my user account that I created. When I log into the admin, like if I log out, and it says test account, so I wanted that to remain, so I can create what's called a fixture. And so there's a command called dump data, and then I can go auth.user, and this will give me that. This is what's called a fixture, and it just represents that user account. And so what I want to do is I want to save that to a file. I'll just call this initial data. And so it's now stored in a file called initial data. And now I can delete the database. And I will make a new migration. And migrate. Now I want to add that fixture, so I will use load data. So we installed one object from the fixture, and now I can refresh this and it'll make me log in again. And there I am. And the ticks should be empty because there's no ticks, because I just cleared out the database, so I'll just make a new one. There it is. And there's one thing. Oh, I know what that is. This right here, this success. Wait, no, that's not it. So it looks like it's trying to set an empty string to the success field. So for some reason, this is trying to be an empty list, or an empty string. So to debug this, I'm just going to do the debugger. So this is actually a problem when I go to the admin interface when I try to load the main page. So it's probably, I'm just going to stop this. It's probably one of these fields. Here it is right here. So we want to exclude, yeah, so we change this. So number of successful polls would be, we want to exclude the successful ones, we want to exclude where successful is true. And then for the error polls, we want to filter successful equals false. And we'll try that. There it is. So this one says 0 and 0. So that's wrong. So this is correct, it looks like. Both of them were correct. But number of successful polls said 0. It should say 2. So this is actually the other way around. We want to exclude false successes, and this one is going to say true. And this is also not true because, oh, I see why, false. We're excluding false. Here we're excluding false, here we're including false. There we go. 2 successes and 0 errors. That's what we want. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do is add the dash dash test and the dash dash verbose to the tick function. So the first thing I'm gonna add it. So this management command is it just calls this make tick function, and so it has to be implemented there first. So up here we'll just go test and verbose. And so if verbose is true, then we want to print it to the screen. So down here, we'll just say if verbose, we want to print pretty much the same thing as this right here, this line. So we're just going to copy this. Except we don't have this result object. We just have, we have to say, this. Then the result, we can just say result. And then for seconds to poll, we're going to just call that seconds. And so to test this, we'll just go to the management command, and we'll just, for now, we'll just say verbose equals true. So we'll do the tick, and there it is. But it's putting HTML here, which we don't want, because it's the command line. and the command line doesn't do HTML, so get rid of these bold tags. There it is. And we'll just add back in this failure just to see if that works. Yeah, but I want to make that failure more obvious. So I'm going to say I'm just going to make this then yeah, so if this is false, then that means it failed. And so we create this tag that just says failure with the stars next to it. And if it's a success, then this failed thing is just going to be empty. And so we sneak that in after the name. So this is the name, and this is going to be the fail, and then the result. And yeah, so let's test that. There it is, failure. It just says failure. So it's kind of more, you can see it. And the other one is test. And what that does is when you pass in test, it just doesn't make the database. So we'll say if test is true, then we just skip this one right here. So continue just means do the next loop. So this is a loop here. Anytime you have a continue inside of a for loop, it just means to jump to the next loop. And so this line doesn't get called. So this line only gets called if test is false. So to test this out, we'll go to the admin. We'll just clear it out. Yeah. And now we'll go to the code for the tick, and we'll say test equals true. And one more thing I forgot. This verbose, it should be or test. So if test is true, it just does this, but not this. But if it's verbose, it'll do this and this. So verbose just adds extra output, but test, it does just the output, and it doesn't do the doesn't actually save it. So if I do this, it'll show it, and I'll just do this a bunch of times. But if I go to the database and I refresh it, it should show nothing, except it shows this. Let's see what's going on here. I'll go to shell. Okay, that should be empty. So I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, I know why. If it's test, we should also skip creating the tick. So if it's test, we should also skip this. And see, tick is only used down here, so it's not going to affect any of this code. So now I'm going to deleted 8 ticks. So I cleared out the database. Now if I refresh this, it should be empty. Now I'll do that again, make a bunch of ticks. Now I'll refresh this. It should doing it again. Yeah, it looks like it's making the tick. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think that. Oh, no. Just try it again. That time it worked. I think I might have just forgot to save. Yeah, I think I just, like whenever you make a change to a file, you have to save it. And I just forgot to save it. So when I ran it again, it was using the old save. So that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to commit. And that's it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to actually add the in the management command. I'm going to add an argument that actually passes it through to this make tick, so that I can actually do the dash dash on the command line. I could just do like dash 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 test, and and turn it on and off. This is useful when you're testing, just to see if everything's going correctly. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.